අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT Mobitel දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Sunday the 30th of July 2023. Open to join. China is welcome to join the debt restructuring efforts in Sri Lanka alongside India, Japan and France, says the Indian Finance Minister. Stern action. Energy Minister warns the fuel dealers to maintain adequate stock levels.
පහුගිය මාසේ ඉන්ධන පෙරෝම 4ක් අපි පවර ගත්තා. එහෙම ගත්තා තොග තියාගෙන යන්න නැති හින්දා. මම ඔය කණිතෙල් නිගස් සංස්ථාවට කිව්වා ඇනවුම් කරලා තොග පවත්වාගෙන යන්න නැතුව ජනතාව පහසුවටපත් කරොත් කාගේ වුණත් කමක් නැහැ පෙරෝම් වල පවර ගන්න.
Says plans are underway to remove the fuel quota.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා ඊළඟ මාස දෙක ඇතුලේ සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම කෝටා ක්‍රමය අවසන් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා තීන්දුව ගන්න.
Trade union action. Association of Health Professionals to launch a strike over the controversial circular issued by the Health Secretary alleging limitation of freedom of expression. However, the subject minister says the circular aims to prevent misleading statements.
This kind of thing can deteriorate the entire free health sector because people might get scared to vote.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරම.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟම ඇති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana First at 9. I'm AdaDerana joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story tonight, Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says China is welcome to join the debt restructuring efforts in Sri Lanka alongside India, Japan and France. Addressing the India-Japan Forum, the Indian Finance Minister said the Joint Creditors Committee launched in April is not limited to only 3 countries and that it is an open forum. Further, she also called upon the IMF and the World Bank to speed up relief measures for countries facing debt vulnerabilities. Addressing the India-Japan Forum yesterday, Indian Minister of Finance Nirmala Sitharaman said, as a large creditor to Sri Lanka, China is welcome to join the efforts steered by Japan, India and France to help Sri Lanka cope with its debt distress. According to The Hindu, she highlighted that the Joint Creditors Committee launched by Japan, India and France is not limited to the 3 countries that initiated it. The Creditor Committee was launched by the 3 countries in April this year for creditor talks on the island nation's debt restructuring. She also called upon the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to speed up relief measures for countries facing debt vulnerabilities. While highlighting that multilateral development banks reforms and debt relief measures for many stressed economies as the top 2 finance track priorities for India during its G20 presidency, Sitharaman said that a comprehensive, better and quicker approach is required to address the problem within the common framework of the IMF and the World Bank as well as outside it. Meanwhile, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara emphasized that several fuel stations have not maintained adequate fuel stocks in anticipation of the fuel price revision next month. Speaking at a political meeting today, the minister further added that the necessary legal actions will be taken against the fuel stations which had failed to maintain adequate fuel stocks. In a tweet, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara stated that 101 fuel station dealers have failed to maintain 50% stock capacity of 92-octane petrol and place adequate stock orders to maintain stock requirements as of yesterday. He also noted that 61 fuel station dealers have failed to maintain stocks and place orders of Lanka auto diesel. The minister stated that the anticipation of next month's fuel price revision by the dealers as a reason for their failure to maintain stocks. While giving assurances to the public that adequate fuel stocks are available in the country, the minister requested all fuel station dealers to maintain adequate stock levels and place orders accordingly.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා ජනාධිපතිතුමත් මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයත් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයත් සමග සාකච්ඡා කරලා ඊළඟ මාස දෙක ඇතුලේ සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම කෝටා ක්‍රමය අවසන් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා තීන්දුව ගන්න. දැන් හැම මාසෙම මිල සංශෝධනයක් කරනවා. මේ මාසේ පළවෙනි සතිය ඇතුලේ අපි ඉන්ධන මිල සංශෝධනය කරනවා. අපි බලනවා එදාට තියෙන මිල ආනයනයේ මිල කීයද? අපේ පිරිවැය ආවරණය කරගන්න අපි මිල සංශෝධනය කරනවා. දැන් මේ මිල සංශෝධනය කරනකොට හැබැයි ඉන්ධන පිරවුම්හල් තියෙනවා කීපයක්. හැමදාම ඉන්ධන තොග තියාගන්න නැතුව ඉන්නවා. ජනතාවට පෙන්නනවා ඉන්ධන හිඟයක් තියෙනවා කියලා. සමහරු ඉන්ධන තොග හංග ගන්නවා. සමහරු ඇනෝම් කරන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් මම ඊයේ බැලුවා ලංකා khනිජ තෙල් නීතිගත සංස්ථාවේ ලංකාවේ තියෙන ඉන්ධන පිරවුම්හල් 1200න් ලංකා khනිජ තෙල් නීතිගත සංස්ථාව පාලනය වෙන ඉන්ධන පිරවුම්හල් 101ක් පෙට්‍රල් තොග තියාගන්න ඕන ප්‍රමාණය තියාගෙන නැහැ. ඇනෝම් කළත් නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම 101 හෙට වෙනකොට ඒ 101 ඉන්ධන නැති වෙනවා. මොකද කරන්න උත්සාහ කරන්නේ? ආණ්ඩුව අපහසුතාවයට පත් කරන්න. කලබලයක් ජනතාව තුළ ඇති කරන්න. එතන ඉන්ධන පිරවුම්හල් 62ක් තිබුණා. අද උදේ බලනකොට ඩීසලුත් ප්‍රමාණවත්ව තියාගෙන නැති ඇනෝම් කරලා නැති. මං කිව්වා අපේ khනිජ තෙල් නීතිගත සංස්ථාවට පිරවුම්හල් වල නම් එක්කම එළියට දාන්න. දැන් ඉන්ධන තොග අපි ගාව තියෙනවා. තව මාස 2කට 3කට ඕන ඉන්ධන තොග තියෙනවා. ඉන්ධන තොග තියෙනට ඇනෝම් කරන්නේ නැත්නම් ඉන්ධන හිඟයක් ඇති වුණොත් එහෙම ඒකේ වගකීමත් රජය ගන්න ඕන. අපි දැන් පහුගිය මාසේ ඉන්ධන පිරවුම්හල් 4ක් අපි පවර ගත්තා. එහෙම ගත්තා තොග තියාගෙන යන්නේ නැති හින්දා. මම ඔය khනිජ තෙල් නීතිගත සංස්ථාවට කිව්වා ඇනෝම් කරලා තොග පවත්වාගෙන යන්නේ නැතුව ජනතාව පහසුවටපත් කරොත් කාගේ වුණත් කමක් නැහැ පිරවුම්හල පවර ගන්න කියලා. පවරගෙන ඒක පාලනය කරන ආණ්ඩුව.
Now, the president of the National Association of Health Professionals said they will launch a strike action on the 3rd of August in protest of a circular issued recently by the Ministry of Health. The association claimed that the circular had been deliberately published to suppress the freedom of expression of the trade unions and the health professionals associations. A circular restricting the ability of health workers to make comments on media was issued by the Secretary to the Ministry of Health last week. According to the provisions of the circular, health workers are prevented from disclosing information to the media without the approval of their respective department heads. The circular also stated that disciplinary action will be taken against health workers who do not abide by the provisions of the circular. Subsequent to the circular being issued, trade unions and health professionals associations raised concerns on the suppression of their rights. Following these developments, the Association of Health Professionals said a health workers' strike action will be launched on the 3rd of August.
සෞඛ්‍ය ලේකම්වරයාට අපි ඊයේ දවසේ ලිපියක් නිකුත් කරා කටවහන චක්‍රලේඛය පිළිබඳව තීරණය වහම ගන්න කියලා සෞඛ්‍ය ලේකම්වරයා තාම ඒකට ප්‍රතිචාර දක්වලා නැහැ. ඒ නිසා අපි සෞඛ්‍ය වෘත්තීය සමිති විදියට රෝගීන්ගේ අයිතිය සුරැකීම පදනම් කරගනිමින් පළවෙනි වෘත්තීය ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය ඒ කටවහන චක්‍රලේඛය අහෝසි කරන්නට කියලා බල කරමින් ලබන බ්‍රහස්පතින්දා 3 වෙනිදා උදෑසන 8ට ආරම්භ කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Minister of Health Keheli Ramukwele said the recent gazette by the Health Secretary limiting the freedom of health workers to make comments to the media was issued to prevent any misleading statements made on the country's free health sector. Speaking to Indivari Amwatha during our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24, Ramukwele said the Health Secretary has to intervene if the health sector employees fail to adhere to the establishment code, which outlines the code of conduct pertaining to public servants.
I'd also like to take your attention to the circular issued by the Secretary of Health directing the directors of hospitals not to issue statements or give statements to the media. Is this because the government, the Ministry of Health, is attempting to cover up the shortcomings at your end?
There is an establishment code, and that is very clearly stated in the code as to how one could go to the media. Because if every person, you have 1.5 million people, public servants, they can make statements, and then some other statements, if the veracity of the statements and the authenticity of it, right, all that has been considered. So somebody must be held responsible if they make a statement. So for that, there is a E-code, established code of the government administrative sector. So if you bypass that, then the secretary has all the right to write to them and say that your department head, you need to get permission from you. There is a system that is laid down. So you drive it.
Wasn't this system in place, Minister, so far?
It is in place.
But we've had health directors speak to us.
That is with the permission, right? With permission and the content. Now, say for instance, I give you a classical example. One of the unions came out, union fellow. He came and said the national hospital and all the hospitals in the country, they have put off all the surgeries. Theatres are closed due to. Then I just saw that on the Facebook and I immediately called that the owner of that particular two media institutions, and they immediately corrected. I'm thankful to them. They immediately took steps to correct it. But then the other person was scot-free because he really shook the whole country. Right? Saying that no theatres are able to function due to one of these drugs that related to anesthesia is not available. And I immediately called the director of General Hospital, Colombo. He said nothing like that. Everything is available. So this kind of thing can happen. And that can really put fear. And that can affect deteriorate the entire free health sector because people might get scared to go. I think there is a planned move because I feel that with what happened 1 year ago, now some people, the remains of some of those guys are trying to use health as a very sensitive area to bring another agitation in the country. It is very clear with some of those union leaders stating into the national TV and then the private sector TV stations, making statements saying this is not available and we are closing the theatres. Completely false. So how do you deal with that unless you have those regulations activated?
Now in the political arena, former parliamentarian of the United National Party Ravi Karunanayake called on all political parties to elect Ranil Wickremesinghe as the president in the next presidential election. Meanwhile, parliamentarian of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Johnston Fernando is confident that his party will claim victory in any election in the future. With that, here are some of the views expressed in the political stage today.
මේ අවස්ථාවේ සහෝදර අනිත් පක්ෂත් සමග අපි මේ රට අලුත් ගමනට ගෙනිච්ච නැත්නම් වැඩි කල් යන්න ඉස්සල්ලා නැවත මේ රට ආර්ථික ප්‍රපාතයකට වැටෙනවා. තව හුඟක් දේවල් තියෙනවා කරන්න. ඉල්ලන්නේ එක දෙයයි. අපි ඒක රාශි වෙලා නිර්පාක්ෂික ජනාධිපතිවරයෙක් බවට පත් කළා. රනිල්ව 2024 අපි ජනාධිපති කරන්න ඕනේ කියන එක මම ඉතාමත් ඕනේ කමින් මතක් කරනවා.
ලංකාවේ 48 වෙනකන් ගොඩනගන්නේ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය පමණමයි කියන එක අපි ඔප්පු කරලා පෙන්නනවා. අපි හිටපු තැන අමතක කරන්න එපා. අවුරුද්දකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා වැඩ කරලා පෙන්නුවා. ගෑස් ටික තියෙනවා, තෙල් ටික තියෙනවා, කණ්ඩ තියෙනවා, සුද්ධ වෙනවා. අද වෙද්දී අපි 170කටත් වැඩි ආසනකට අපි ගිහිල්ලා ඉවරයි. ඒ යන හැම තැනම අපිට දෙන පණිවිඩය තමයි ඊළඟ මොන මැතිවරණය දෙන්නේ අපේ පක්ෂයේ පොහොට්ටුව අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඕන මැතිවරණයක් ජයග්‍රහණය කරනවා කියන පණිවිඩය තමයි දෙන්නේ.
අවුරුද්දකින් යනවා ජනාධිපති ඡන්දය. මේ සමූපකාර ඡන්ද දිනනවා, ප්‍රාදේශ සභා දිනනවා. ඊට වඩා හොඳයි නේද? මුදුනට වැඩි දුන්නා. ඒ නිසා අපි ඒක ලෑස්ති වෙනවා.
Now the Sri Lankan government aims to attract 5 million tourists by 2030, 450,000 Chinese tourists by next year. More news on the other side of the short commercial break. Stay with us.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
අපේ ගෙදරත් ආපිකෝ මෙට්‍රස් තමයි.
මාදිලි රසකින් යුත් මෙට්ටලුවේ ප්‍රමුඛයා ආපිකෝ මෙට්‍රස් සැපනින්දට සැප මෙට්ට.
Now in your local business news, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau Chalaka Gajabahu says the government plans to attract around 150,000 Chinese tourists to the country within this year. Addressing an event themed China Open for Business, What's Next for Sri Lanka, organized by the Sri Lanka China Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Gajabao said the number of Chinese tourists will be around 450,000 next year, with the campaigns that are expected to be launched for tourism promotion. He also said that the target of the government is to attract 5 million tourists by 2030.
China is a huge market, they travel across the world. Is there a plan or a roadmap to get more tourists to Sri Lanka in the next maybe 12 months, 24 months, 36 months from China?
As a roadmap for the next 12 months, yes, a thematic campaign that we are going to launch, B2B is separate, but B2C, China specific, it's going to be one story. But you know, we need to understand the insights of the Chinese people, what they want to do. The young might be different, the mature crowd must be different, the elderly must be different. So, but that research is being done to attract that audience depending on the category that they want. It can be wellness, it can be adventure, and some can be casinos, and then one can be culture. But all that aspects will be addressed through media, influencer programs. Influencer program is one of the key ones that we are going to do. The influencer program themed 1,000 influencers we are going to bring from 7 key countries. China being one, we are going to bring 100 influencers, that is bloggers and bloggers from China, not only from one segment, but it can be from wellness, it can be romance, it can be camping or adventure, depending on the liking. So that it's, like I said, it's a 360-degree full approach that we are going in. Not only for China, these 12 countries that we are talking about, a full 360-degree approach.
So do we have a rough idea about a number that we may look at from China?
They opened up in April. The pickup was slow, but now it's slowly picking up. China has now, this month is at number 3 right now. It was a fast pickup. behind UK and India. We have, I think, about 24,000 right now, arrivals from China. We hope to end around 150 this year, but it's gonna triple next year with our numbers going ahead. His Excellency has a target of 2.5 million high-end tourists, and this 2.5 million plus the normal 2.5 million, that is the target. So 5 million is the target for 2030. Getting this 5 million, just because we put a number, we don't have the infrastructure for it. But when we bring the number down, our average spend for a tourist is $160, whereas in comparison to Maldives, I think it's about $750. It's not the number, but if we can raise the expenditure, but they spend here, it's also very important. Like looking at China, we have that target audience. We have that high spending category, so we need to attract that correct audience, but it will take some time.
How many tourists can we accommodate in the country now with the infrastructure resources that we have?
Within a year, I think we can go up to about 3 million, because don't forget in 2018 we had 2.3 million. Within a year we can go for 3 million. Don't forget a lot of investments are coming in as well. We are looking for investments in North, and that's the other sector that we were trying to push through SLTDF with China and India as well.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of AdaDerana First at 9. Stay in touch with us on www.adaderana.lk for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.